Hey everyone, my name is Alex and I'm a lead consultant with Expat Exact, an expatriate and relocation agency dedicated to helping you find a destination that matches your destiny. And today we are talking about one of the most requested destinations we get from our clients, from our community, and from you guys right here in the comments. We're talking about Panama City, Panama. And I have to tell you, after spending serious time here, walking these streets, riding through these neighborhoods, sitting down with locals, talking to expats who've already made the move, and really digging into what daily life actually looks like across different parts of this city, I completely understand why people keep asking about this place. Panama City is unlike anywhere else in Latin America. It has this incredible energy that you really can't fake. You got a skyline that looks like it belongs in Miami. You've got a waterfront on a weekend morning, which is absolutely alive with people jogging, cycling, walking their dogs, and just enjoying the fact that they live somewhere beautiful. You've got world class restaurants, international grocery stores, a banking system that is built around the US dollar, and an expat community that is established, welcoming, and growing every single year. But here's the thing I want you to really hear before we get into the neighborhoods. Panama City is not one place. I know that sounds simple, but I cannot tell you how many people I talk to who say, I want to move to Panama City as if it's a single uniform experience. It's not, okay? This city is a collection of worlds. Each neighborhood has its own personality, its own price point, its own demographic, its own pace, its own noise level, its own relationship with cars and transit and walking. And picking the wrong neighborhood for your specific life could make or break your entire experience here, okay? So, what I'm going to do today is walk you through the 8 of the most important neighborhoods in Panama City, plus a few key areas you need to understand to get the full picture. We are covering a Casco Viejo, El Cangrejo, Avenida Balboa, Bella Vista, Punta Pacifica, and Patilla, San Francisco, Costa del Este, Santa Maria, and Clayton. And I'm going to be honest with you about all of it: the good, the not so good, the prices, the lifestyle, and exactly who each neighborhood is genuinely best suited for. This is not a highlight reel. This is a real guide because you deserve real information when you're making a real decision about your life. Before we get started, it's important that I share a map of Panama City for reference. It's a lot easier to understand visually when there's a pictorial representation of the city. Starting at the right, we have Tocumen International Airport, which is where most of you will land when you fly to Panama, even if it's for a connecting flight, because this is Panama's biggest airport. From there, making your way to the city, going from right to left or east to west, we have Santa Maria and Costa del Este, then Punta Pacifica and Punta Paitilla, El Cangrejo, Bella Vista, Avenida Balboa, and then a Casco Viejo or Old Town. And lastly, we have Clayton to the north. To get us started off, let's begin with Santa Maria, which is the most exclusive residential neighborhood on our list. And I want to describe it accurately rather than either overselling its glamour or underselling what it genuinely offers for the right kind of resident. It's about 10 minutes from the airport and 25 minutes from the center of Panama City with no traffic and 40 to 45 minutes in it. So this is what they consider the outskirts of the city. Santa Maria is a master planned gated golf community spanning about 700 acres. You have 24-hour security at many entrances, roving security patrols, manicured landscaping, and at the center of it all, a Jack Nicklaus signature design golf course that is consistently ranked amongst the best in Central America. This is the only Jack Nicklaus course in all of Panama, and it is a significant part of why Santa Maria carries the reputation it does. You have properties ranging from elegant single family homes to luxury condominiums. Rent for a 3-bedroom unit runs roughly $4,000 to $6,000 a month, and purchase prices for condominiums start around $400,000 and go well past $2 million for the top tier properties. Now, here is something worth knowing that your average real estate search won't tell you. There are meaningful number of vacant units in Santa Maria. Development here moved faster than the market filled in, which means if you're willing to spend time searching and are comfortable negotiating, you may find more pricing flexibility here than in almost any other premium neighborhood in Panama City. That is not a weakness of the neighborhood. It is a practical opportunity for the patient buyer or renter. Now, who is actually living in Santa Maria? This is where I want to be accurate with you because there's sometimes a simplified version of this that gets passed around. Santa Maria is home to a genuinely diverse group of high income residents, corporate executives, diplomatic families, wealthy Panamanians, and international expats from many backgrounds. It's not defined by any single ethnic or cultural community. What unites the people here is a lifestyle preference and a desire for privacy and security. In terms of getting around, you need a car in Santa Maria. There's currently no metro service here. Now, I will mention that Panama's long range metro expansion plans include a proposed Line 5 that would eventually serve both Santa Maria and Costa del Este. But for your life today and for the next few years, you do need a vehicle. This is not a walkable neighborhood. It was not designed to be, and that is completely fine if you have a car and prefer a private, self contained lifestyle. There are a few bars and no clubs in Santa Maria. It is purely residential, very quiet, very private, and completely intentional about that. The surrounding area has some commercial and business activity, but the neighborhood itself functions as a sanctuary. You come home and the rest of the city disappears behind the gate. If you've spent your career in noise and chaos and are now ready for something that feels genuinely elevated and peaceful, Santa Maria delivers that at a level that is hard to match anywhere in Panama City. For the expat who wants maximum security, world class amenities, a golf community lifestyle, and the full expression of premium residential living in Panama, this is where you are headed. Right next door to Santa Maria is Costa del Este. And while they share a premium price point, they are actually quite different in character. And I want to make sure you understand those differences clearly. Costa del Este was presented to the public in 1995, making it one of the most newer planned neighborhoods on our list. It's become one of the most significant real estate developments in all of Panama City. Where Santa Maria feels like a private residential enclave built around a golf course, Costa del Este feels more like a full city district. There are skyscrapers going up, a nearly 4 kilometer boardwalk along the waterfront, parks, a huge central plaza, underground wiring, a separate wastewater treatment plant, sidewalks, recreational areas, and a commercial and business ecosystem that is genuinely substantial. And that word, business, is important here. Costa del Este is a major corporate hub. Copa Airlines, Panama's flag carrier and one of the most important airlines in the Western Hemisphere, has its headquarters right here in Costa del Este. You have distribution centers, corporate towers, and a large industrial park. That combination of residential and commercial activity gives Costa del Este an energy that Santa Maria does not have. There is movement, there's life on the streets, there are people going to work and coming home, but it also means that during morning and evening rush hours, the main arteries in and out of this neighborhood can get quite congested. If your daily schedule allows flexibility around peak windows, it's very manageable. If you are locked into a rigid commute schedule, plan accordingly. Rent for a three-bedroom in Costa del Este runs $4,000 to $6,000 a month, comparable to Santa Maria. What you get for that price here is interesting though, because Costa del Este offers both condominiums and houses. For expats who want a yard, a driveway, a garden, a room for children to actually play outside, Costa del Este is one of the very few neighborhoods in Panama City where that option genuinely exists at scale. That alone makes it distinctive from most of other premium neighborhoods, which are almost entirely tower based. Getting around Costa del Este, you do need a car or reliable private transportation. The current metro system, Panama City's two operational rail lines, does not directly serve Costa del Este. The neighborhood is connected to the city center via the Corredor Sur, a well maintained toll highway, and metro bus routes do serve the area. But if you're thinking about living here without a vehicle, a daily life becomes genuinely difficult. There is future metro planning that would eventually bring a rail to this area, but as I said regarding Santa Maria, that is a future project. Today and for the foreseeable future, get a car. The community in Costa del Este is genuinely international. There's a well-established Jewish community here. The congregation Akol Ashirith Israel Synagogue is located in Costa del Este, which reflects deep roots. There's also a large Chinese community and a significant and growing expat population from the Americas and Europe. If you want to be in a neighborhood where international living is the default rather than the exception, Costa del Este delivers that. Rey grocery stores, commercial plazas, restaurants, and bars are all well represented here. Not many clubs, but accessible, low key nightlife that lets you have a social life without the neighborhood becoming loud. And yes, the dog friendly culture in Costa del Este is real. The mall here welcomes dogs, the boardwalk is active with pet owners, and the overall outdoor culture of the neighborhood is excellent for anyone relocating with animals. Costa del Este is for the expat who wants suburban space, a genuinely international community, excellent healthcare access, the option of a house rather than just a tower apartment, and the infrastructure of a real neighborhood, not just a residential enclave, all at a premium price point. Now we move on to Punta Pacifica and Punta Paitilla. And I want to spend real time here because this area carries some of the most important practical information for expats in Panama City. These are two neighborhoods that sit right at the beginning of Avenida Balboa along the waterfront of the Bay of Panama, and they are so physically adjacent and functionally similar that most people, expats, locals, and real estate professionals treat them as one zone. So that is how we are going to talk about them. This is a newer part of the city. Developments built out primarily in the early 2000s, and the built environment reflects that in every way. The towers are modern, the lobbies are designed to impress, and the infrastructure was clearly planned with a specific type of resident in mind. One detail that tells you everything: the first several floors of most residential buildings in this area are entirely dedicated to parking. This neighborhood was built for people who drive. It was not built for people who want to take the metro to the corner store because the nearest metro stop on line one is about 1.5 miles away. Rent for a three-bedroom runs roughly $3,000 to $4,000 a month, which puts it at the upper end of the market, but still accessible compared to some of the fully premium options we just discussed. The area is walkable in the technical sense. Distances between things are reasonable and the streets are pleasant, but most residents drive for daily life, and that works well here because the neighborhood is compact and well organized. One thing worth noting for older expats or anyone with mobility considerations: because this area was designed around car access and things are clustered relatively close together, it actually works very well for people who prefer to minimize long walking distances in their day to day routine. You drive to the grocery store, you drive to dinner, you park in your building. It is convenient in a way that more walking dependent neighborhoods might not be. The demographic here is primarily couples and families. The nightlife is minimal here. This is a neighborhood organized around living rather than entertainment, and the result is a calm, safe, and well maintained environment that expats consistently describe as one of the most livable in the entire city. Now, the hospital. This is where Punta Pacifica earns a distinction that is genuinely remarkable and worth understanding fully. Hospital Punta Pacifica, which operates under the Pacifica Salud brand, is the only Johns Hopkins Medicine International affiliated hospital in all of Latin America and the Caribbean. This is not a marketing phrase. It is a formal affiliation that Johns Hopkins has maintained for over 20 years with annual on-site audits and consulting relationships covering clinical programs, patient safety, staff development, and quality standards. The hospital is JCI accredited, has doctors trained at American institutions, operates in English, and handles medical tourism from across the hemisphere. Medical procedures here run roughly 70 to 75% less than comparable US prices while maintaining those Johns Hopkins standards. For expats, especially retirees or anyone with ongoing health needs, having that level of care right in your neighborhood is an extraordinary advantage. If healthcare quality is a major factor in your decision, this specific detail about Punta Pacifica deserves to weigh heavily. The Jewish community in Panama City has a long established presence in this area, and the grocery stores and daily amenities that serve Punta Pacifica and Paitilla are well positioned between the two neighborhoods, making everyday logistics completely smooth. The waterfront lifestyle, ocean breezes, proximity to the Cinta Costera, the visual experience of living with the bay as your backdrop is genuinely as good as it looks in the photos, if not better. Punta Pacifica and Punta Paitilla are for the expat who wants premium modern living, extraordinary healthcare access, quiet residential streets, waterfront proximity, and is ready to make a car a standard part of daily life. And now we shift gears significantly because El Cangrejo is where the budget conscious expats live. El Cangrejo was developed in the 1950s, and that history gives it something that newer neighborhoods simply do not have: layers. When you walk through El Cangrejo, you are walking through a neighborhood that has actually lived. Some buildings are 50 plus years old and carry that mid century character in the best possible way. Some have been fully renovated. Some newer buildings went up in the last 10 to 15 years. There is variety here, and that variety creates a texture, a sense of a real place that purpose built luxury developments sometimes feel like they are still working to earn. Now let's talk price. A three-bedroom apartment in El Cangrejo can run around $1,500 a month. That is for three bedrooms in a capital city with some of the best expat infrastructure in the Western Hemisphere surrounding you. Take a moment with that number because when you hold it up against the $4,000 to $6,000 neighborhoods we just covered, the contrast is significant. For retirees on a fixed income or digital nomads managing their budgets carefully, for anyone who wants to live in Panama City without making housing the centerpiece of their financial life, El Cangrejo deserves serious, serious consideration. The energy here is fantastic and genuine. More restaurants and bars exist in El Cangrejo than in any other neighborhood in Panama City. That's not an exaggeration. It is one of the most densely served dining and nightlife areas in the city. And here's an important detail: the music in the bars and clubs here is kept inside in many areas. El Cangrejo still does have an active nightlife, so you will need to be mindful of where you live for anyone sensitive to noise. The demographic is one of the most genuinely mixed on the list. Couples, families who have been here for generations, and a solid student population because the University of Panama is in close proximity. If you like the feeling of a neighborhood that is alive with different kinds of people at different stages of life, El Cangrejo gives you that authentically. A couple of things I want to people to know before they arrive. The largest public hospital in Panama City is located in this neighborhood. From a healthcare access standpoint, that is a positive. You are close to significant medical infrastructure. Practically speaking, depending on exactly where your apartment sits within El Cangrejo, you may hear ambulance sirens with some regularity. It is worth asking specifically about this when evaluating individual units. Also, and I want to be honest, you may see homeless individuals in El Cangrejo. Panama City has more visible poverty and street life than most American cities, and El Cangrejo sits at a price point and in a location where that is a part of the landscape. The consistent and repeated feedback I have received from people who live and work in El Cangrejo is that the neighborhood is safe. Safe and manicured are two different things, and only you know your own threshold. But from a security standpoint, the neighborhood has a solid reputation. Getting around is one of El Cangrejo's genuine practical advantages. It sits at roughly 50-50 between metro access and driving. It is one of the more transit accessible neighborhoods in Panama City because the metro is about a half a mile away from many residents. But the biggest caveat is always where you're going and if they have a metro stop near your destination. If you prefer not to own a car in a foreign country, El Cangrejo gives you real, usable options for getting around without one. El Cangrejo is the best value in Panama City. For city energy, a real restaurant and nightlife culture, transit access, and a neighborhood that feels genuinely alive, all at a price point that makes long term living financially sustainable, this is your neighborhood. Next up is Bella Vista, which is one of those neighborhoods that people sometimes move past too quickly because it does not have the dramatic headline. It is not the historic Old Town. It is not the gleaming waterfront tower district. It is not the gated golf community. What it is genuinely livable in a way that takes some people by surprise once they spend real time here. This is an established residential neighborhood with a character that only develops over decades of actual use. The streets have mature trees, real ones, planted long enough ago that they actually provide shade. And in a tropical city where the midday heat and sun are daily realities, that distinction matters more than it might sound. Walking in Bella Vista on a tree lined street versus walking in a newer development where everything was planted last year is a noticeably different physical experience. The housing stock reflects the neighborhood's organic growth over time. You will find mid century apartment buildings alongside renovated units alongside newer construction. You will find houses that have been converted into restaurants, professional offices, boutiques, and local cafes. It is a mixed and layered environment that gives Bella Vista a sense of place. It feels like it belongs to the city rather than having everything installed into it. In terms of price, Bella Vista generally sits between El Cangrejo's affordability and the premium pricing of the waterfront neighborhoods. Three-bedroom apartments typically run in the range of $1,500 to $2,500 a month, depending on the building's age, condition, and location within the neighborhood. That is a competitive price point for what you get. Central, character, walkable. What Bella Vista does especially well is local authenticity. The restaurants and cafes here feel genuinely Panamanian, not designed for tourists, not positioned for wealthy expats, but places where the people who actually live in the neighborhood go to eat, spend time, and be part of the community. If you want to feel like you're living in Panama City rather than living in a curated expat bubble, Bella Vista gives you that. The sidewalks are in decent condition, there is shade, there's personality, and for the expat who values character and walkability and local life over prestige and modernity, Bella Vista is genuinely one of the most underrated options in the city. Before we move on to Casco Viejo, we need to talk about Avenida Balboa because it keeps coming up in every conversation about Panama City neighborhoods, and I want to make sure you understand exactly what it is and what it means for where you might choose to live. Avenida Balboa is the main coastal boulevard running along the Bay of Panama. It is one of the signature visual and physical features of Panama City, a wide, sweeping waterfront road that runs for about 6 miles along the oceanfront from Casco Viejo all the way to Punta Paitilla. On one side, the Pacific, on the other, some of the most recognizable buildings in Panama City's skyline. It's iconic, it is beautiful, and it defines the feel of the entire coastal corridor. Running directly alongside it is the Quinta Costera, Panama City's famous waterfront park and promenade. And this is genuinely one of the best urban outdoor spaces in Latin America. On weekend mornings, it is absolutely packed with life. Joggers, cyclists, families with strollers, couples, dogs, food vendors, people stretching and exercising and just existing in a beautiful place. In the evenings, particularly around sunset, the sky over the Pacific turns extraordinary colors and the skyline lights up behind you. And you understand in a very physical way why people are willing to pay premium prices to be close to this. Avenida Balboa itself is not a neighborhood in the traditional sense, it is a corridor. A landmark artery that several neighborhoods reference and benefit from. Apartments along or near Avenida Balboa command prices comparable to Punta Paitilla and Punta Pacifica because you are paying for that view, that access, and that waterfront lifestyle. There are metro stations a few blocks off Balboa Avenue, Santo Tomas, Loteria, and Cinco de Mayo are all in the vicinity, which gives that stretch a transit advantage that some of the more purely premium neighborhoods do not have. The practical consideration is traffic. Avenida Balboa is a major artery and carries significant vehicle volume, particularly during morning and evening rush hours. If your apartment is directly on the boulevard, noise and congestion are real factors to account for. If you are a block or two back, you get the proximity to the waterfront lifestyle without being directly in the flow of traffic. It is worth being specific about location within this corridor when you are evaluating options. And now we arrive at Casco Viejo, also called Casco Antiguo or simply the Old Town. And I want to tell you about this place honestly because it deserves honesty more than it deserves either a highlight reel or a dismissal. Casco Viejo is about 350 years old. 3.5 centuries of history compressed into a peninsula of cobblestone streets, colonial architecture, plazas that have hosted generations of Panamanian life, and views out over the bay that are genuinely breathtaking on a clear evening. UNESCO recognized it as a World Heritage Site in 1997, and when you walk through it, really walk through it, not just the main tourist strip, you understand why. There's nowhere else in Panama City quite like this. Today, Casco Viejo is also one of the most actively gentrifying neighborhoods in all of Central America. Boutique hotels, rooftop bars with stunning bay views, high end restaurants, independent coffee shops, art galleries, and luxury apartments have moved in alongside the original residents and the historic fabric of the neighborhood. It has an energy that is both deeply rooted in history and actively contemporary, which is a rare combination anywhere in the world. But I am going to give you the same honest assessment I always give, because that is what Expat Exact is about. Living in Casco Viejo is not the same as visiting Casco Viejo, and those are two experiences that are genuinely different. The buildings are old. Some have been beautifully, expensively restored to modern standards. Others have not. A realtor who knows this neighborhood will tell you this directly. Structural issues are a real concern in certain buildings. Before you sign anything in Casco Viejo, you need to inspect the specific property thoroughly and carefully. Do not assume that because a building looks charming from the outside, that it's been maintained to the standard you would expect. The streets here are narrow, very narrow, and most of them are one ways. They were laid out centuries before the automobile existed, and traffic management has not fully caught up. This is one of the most visited tourist destinations in Panama City, which means on any given day you have tour groups, rental bikes, or restaurant foot traffic, vendors, and visitors all moving through a street grid that was designed for foot traffic and horse carts. It is lively, it is colorful, it is full of energy, and it can be genuinely frustrating when you are simply trying to get home. The people who do choose to live here tend to be couples and sometimes families who are deeply in love with the historical atmosphere and the sense of being embedded in something real and old and meaningful. Some expats find the romantic bohemian character of Casco Viejo to be exactly what they were looking for when they left home. And I understand that completely. But for most expats who are thinking practically about daily life, getting around efficiently, having a reliable home environment, living without constant tourist energy outside the front door, I would encourage you to use Casco Viejo as the neighborhood you visit on weekends and celebrate on special occasions, and choose somewhere more practical as your actual base. Come here for the history, the coffee, the rooftop views at sunset. Just be careful and thorough before you commit to living here. And finally, we close with Clayton, to the northwest of the city center, roughly a 10-minute drive from downtown Panama City. And I want to make sure I give this neighborhood the attention it deserves, because it is genuinely underrated, and for a specific kind of expat, it may honestly be the best option in the entire city. The first pro is the rent, as a three-bedroom apartment typically runs in the range of $1,300 to $2,500 a month, depending on the exact location. Now, for a bit of history, Clayton was a United States military base, part of the former Panama Canal Zone, and it was handed back to Panama in 1999 when the zone was officially transferred. That history is not just a historical footnote, it is written into everything about what Clayton looks and feels like today. The streets are wide and logically laid out in a way that organic city development rarely produces. The green spaces are abundant and mature, real trees, real parks, open areas that were maintained as part of military infrastructure for decades and have been preserved and expanded since the transfer. The architecture has a distinctive character that you simply will not find anywhere else in Panama City. It carries that mid century American institutional quality that, depending on your background, either feels comfortingly familiar or delightfully unusual. Today, Clayton is home to the City of Knowledge, a significant campus of universities, research institutions, international organizations, NGOs, technology companies, and innovation centers. The U.S. Embassy is also located in Clayton, which contributes to the substantial and long established American expat community that has called this neighborhood home for nearly a century in various forms. The housing stock in Clayton skews strongly towards houses rather than high rise apartments, which is one of the most significant practical distinctions between this neighborhood and almost everything else in Panama City. If you're relocating with a family and want a yard, a space for children to play, a driveway, room to breathe between you and your neighbors, Clayton is one of the very few places in the city where that is genuinely available at scale. The neighborhood also is home to some of Panama City's best international schools, including King's College, Balboa Academy, and the Metropolitan School of Panama, which is a major factor for families choosing where to put their roots. You will need a car in Clayton. The metro does not serve this neighborhood, and the distance from Clayton to some of the city's commercial centers means that being without personal transportation would make daily life genuinely difficult. But the trade off for that requirement is a neighborhood that is quiet, spacious, safe, green, and home to a community of people who are predominantly international, well educated, and who chose Panama City because they want to build a real life here rather than just pass through. Clayton is the hidden gem on this list. Let me bring everything together cleanly because, after all that, you do deserve a clear summary. If you want the absolute pinnacle of exclusivity, a golf course outside your window, gated privacy, and maximum security, Santa Maria is your neighborhood. Come with a car and a willingness to negotiate on price. If you want premium living with more community energy, the option of a house instead of just a tower, a strong international community, and Johns Hopkins affiliated healthcare nearby, Costa del Este is built for that. If you want waterfront living, modern towers, the best private hospital in Latin America literally in your neighborhood, quiet streets, and the Quinta Costera as your backyard, Punta Pacifica and Punta Paitia are where you want to be. If you are watching your budget and want real city energy, the best restaurant and nightlife scene in Panama City, transit access, and a neighborhood with genuine character, El Cangrejo is the best value in the city, full stop. If you want a walkable, tree lined, authentically local neighborhood with mid range pricing and a sense of real place, Bella Vista is underrated and worth serious consideration. If you want to understand the waterfront corridor that connects so much of Panama City's best neighborhoods and defines the city's visual identity, Avenida Balboa is the spine of it, and living near it puts you in the heart of that energy. If you want history, romance, cobblestone streets, and UNESCO recognized architecture, visit Casco Viejo often and live there only if you have done your homework on the specific building and are genuinely drawn to that lifestyle. And if you want space, green, international schools, a community of professionals and families, wide streets, actual houses, and you're comfortable being northwest of the action rather than in the middle of it, Clayton is the answer that most people overlook, and the expats who live there are glad they found it. If this video gave you real clarity on Panama City, please hit the like button. It helps more people find this kind of content. And this is exactly the conversation more Americans are considering a move abroad need to be having. Drop a comment below and tell me which neighborhood resonated with you. And if you're not subscribed yet to our channel yet, please do. If you're ready to take this the next step in moving abroad, head over to expatexact.com. We offer personalized relocation consulting, not just on Panama, but we review which country might be the best fit for you by learning your life, your budget, your concerns, and more to help you build a real plan with real steps.